Thank you, everybody, for being with us today. My name is Phil Dunshee. I am the project manager for Iowa Land Records. I am very grateful to have the opportunity to visit with you today, and I hope we're in a position to answer all of your questions. We're going to be talking about the relatively brand new search application that we rolled out a few weeks ago. We're going to be doing some comparing and contrasting with the legacy search application, which will be retired later this year. And mostly we're going to be demonstrating how to make best use of the search application. And if you have any specific questions that I'm not answering or that I haven't answered, please be sure to enter those questions into the webinar chat pod. So beginning, just to compare the old to the new, I'm going to log into the search application as it exists today. I want to get an easier one than that. So let me get through the authentication. Oh, for goodness sake. There are people out there right now saying, we're glad to see you suffer just like we have to. We can just feel it. So we're going to log in, and I'm logged into the legacy application. And I am using that for this demonstration. I'm using a public account that I have. This is not an administrative account. This is just a standard user account. And the thing that we're going to be comparing and contrasting with briefly is the search application. So in the current application, the legacy application, many of you may be familiar with this, but you would log into a separate website at iowalandrecords.org/portal. And if you initiated the search, as I've just done, the first thing you would be asked to do is to select a county or counties that you want to search in, and you would do that by selecting it from a list, selecting the Continue Search button, and then you would be taken to a different file folder tab would be the analogy that we would use to either choose a basic or an advanced search, and then you would enter criteria here for a search of a particular document. I'm going to do just a very basic search. I'm going to go back to let's go back to Wednesday of last week. I just want to see for this particular county, which I've selected, I'm going to see what we get for that search. And so the initial search results for that particular period of time in Allamakee County, we get a table of results that includes the recording information, the document type. Depending on the type of search you conduct, it does vary up a little bit, but this is basically what you see. And then if you want to see the details about any particular document, you would click on the magnifying glass, and then you can use this, again, file folder tab analogy to drill down into the details. And then if you are interested in seeing the document image, you would click on the image icon, and it would open up in a viewer in your browser tab. And that's generally the way it works. Something I'm going to point out right now that is a question that somebody had submitted is, there is a feature in the legacy application called Search Tips. And if you click on that, it will take you to a page that provides you with some basic, I guess I'm just going to say hints on how to search in that particular county. And another thing that does exist in the legacy application is a dynamically generated piece of information that will tell you when the last time the county uploaded new information from their local county to the Iowa Land Records website, and what the recording date is, that is the most recent recording date that they had submitted. piece of information that's not dynamic, it's fairly static, manually entered in the legacy system is a date indicating how far back the records go. And I want you to be aware that you're not going to see anything like search tips in the demonstration today, but I do want you to know that we are going to be building a brand new search tips component of the search application. And our plan generally is to have that ready and implemented before we totally turn off the legacy application. So that is what we have today. And then in the new application, it does look a little bit differently. It displays data and in less of a table mode and more of a mode that provides you with more information right up front about each record. So if you compare and contrast the two versions of the application, there really are very many differences. But one of the things that we learned from talking to our users, we had several focus groups, we took surveys, and one of the things that we heard is that there was a desire to have the application be more modern, that it be responsive, use up the real estate on your computer screens or your tablets, and to provide more information about each record right up front and not have to require the user to drill down into the system and to look for details. They wanted to see more information right up front. And that is what we have attempted to do, and that's what I'm going to be demonstrating for you today. So I'm going to close out the window with the legacy application, just so you have that comparison in your mind. And I'm going to maximize the screen for this application. And you may be asking yourselves, why are you showing me this? This doesn't look like the search application. And the reason is that we have implemented a central authentication system that will allow users of our e-submission application and our search application to log in one time and have access to both tools, which is different than the way it is today with our legacy application. Today, you have to log in separately with a separate user ID and password into the legacy search application. And if you're an e-submitter, then you're going to be logging in separately. Now those two things are integrated under the same system. And if you are an e-submission customer, this is what you see first when you log in to the application, to the Iowa Land Records applications. And if you want to get to the search application, as an e-submitter, you will find that there are links in the top menu bar here. One of them is called eSearch, and the other one is called ILR Search. eSearch allows an e-submission organization to search for the records that they are submitting to the counties so that they can check on the status and manage all of their documents that they are submitting for e-recording. ILR search, on the other hand, is a search of not just your own records, but the entire 23 million documents that are in the Iowa Land Records database. And so if you're a submitter, you will access the search application in this manner. And then I'm just going to click on this button and it opens up the new search application. That is how you would do it. If you are an e-submission organization or an e-submission user and you need to get back to the e-submission application, it is as easy as clicking on this link in the upper portion of the screen that will take you back to the e-submission application. So now you're back in the e-submission application and you can continue your business. But if you need to switch back and search for something in the entire Iowa Land Records database, you would just click on Iowa Land Records Search or Iowa Search, and it will take you right back to the spot. If you are not an e-submission customer and you sign up for the search application, the new one, then your credentials will not take you to an e-submission page. It will take you directly to this page so that you can begin your search activities. And the entire system is based on permissions and roles. And if your organization has been granted permission to access one or both applications, then those permissions will extend down to you as a user in that organization. And what you will be permitted to do is then based on the role that you're assigned, not by us, but by your administrators within your organization. I'll talk more about that in just a second. Don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'm going to switch gears here. And what you see right now is the Iowa Land Records main website. If you just go to iowalandrecords.org and you don't do anything else, you're going to be taken to this set of landing pages that provides a lot of information about Iowa Land Records and about Iowa Land Records, the system, as well as the records that we are custodians of. If you need assistance, I would encourage you to look at this resources area. And this resource area has recorded webinars, it has training videos, a lot of FAQ type information. If you want to find out about your submission, a ton of that is there. As we continue to roll out the new search application, we'll be adding more resources here as well. And I'm looking just briefly just to check signals with my team. If you can enter a message in the chat pod to verify that everybody is seeing the landing page application, I would appreciate that confirmation, if you would. Just a quick note in the chat pod. Thank you very much, Lisa. So the next thing I want to show with you is not everything in this website, but you'll notice that in the upper right-hand corner of the application you'll see a button now that says request an account. If you have been here before, you know that you might have seen a button that says become an e-submission customer or something like that. Now we are beginning to combine those things into a single streamlined application process. And if you are not already a user of the search application or e-submission, this is where you will go. You will be taken to this form, and this form provides you with the information you need to enter in order to be given permission to access the e-submission and the search application. Notice that in the application form, you have two options. You can request to be an e-submission organization, or if you are already an e-submitter and you want access to the search application, you can just check that box and move on. Then we ask some basic information about your organization. We do go through a process of authenticating who the users are. And we'll ask you for information about your organization. If your business is registered with the Secretary of State, we will ask you to share some of that information with us. Or if you're a small business and you're registered with a trade name in an individual county, you can provide that information to us as well. And then we will ask you for your administrator's information. And this is one of the big differences between the old search application and the new search application. And that is, in the old application, it was all self-registration. You enter your own information. You click on a link to confirm your password, and you're in. And we're not going to be doing it that way anymore. And I'm sorry to say it's kind of the times we live in, but we just had quite a few individuals as well as organizations that were not following the rules, not identifying who they really were, setting up fictional accounts or fictional usernames and user IDs, and in some cases, trying to access our information from websites and IP addresses that are located outside of the United States. And that's just something that in this day and age, you just can't do that anymore. So we have more of a controlled registration system. And even if you are already an e-submission organization, we ask you to submit an application, not because we're doubt who you are if you're a submitter, but just as another step of security. And then another thing that has happened is that we have, with these changes, updated our terms of service, and we want to make sure that everybody has had an opportunity to review those in order to continue receiving services. This is primarily set up for an organization. So if you are with a financial institution or a real estate law firm, or if you are an abstract company or a surveyor organization, we're going to set you up as an organization account. If for some reason you are not fitting that profile, that is, you are just an individual, a citizen, and you want to look up records, we will allow that to happen. And we've set up a special account just for you, and that is called an individual user account. And if you are in that category, you have access to a similar but different application where you would sign up as an individual user. And we are going through that process as well to verify and authenticate who the people are and how to use the system. I could spend a lot more time just on that, but those are the basics of what you need to know. If you're not in the system yet, as either a submitter or an applicant for the search application, this is something that we ask you to do. It's for security reasons and also so that we can better serve you. Now I'm going to switch gears here and go back to the search application itself and provide just a bit of an overview before I demonstrate some case examples of how to use the search. So when we were doing the planning process a year or so ago on what this new thing should look like, one of the things that came out of that discussion is that the participants suggested that we simplify the searches, that in some cases it was too complicated, too difficult to use, and they just wanted a more simplified, straightforward process. On the other hand, there were some users who said, hey, we agree that we want you to make it simpler for many of your users, but for those of us who are experienced, we want to still have access to a more advanced search. So as you think about the search application, that is exactly what we have done. So if you look on the navigation bar on the left portion of your screen where my cursor is, you'll see that we have new, very specific, very narrowly organized searches for people who are doing particular types of searches because they have a specific need that they're trying to address. So the main categories, the simplified categories, are the name search, a reference search, which is the same as the recording reference number, or some of you may be familiar with the idea of a booking page, a location search, which in the past has sometimes been referred to as a legal description search, but it's really more of a surveyor's type of search, a location search where we're giving you the ability to look for land that has been platted and developed, or land that is unplatted, maybe it's primarily still agriculture in nature. And so you can search on various characteristics based on geographic criteria that are commonly used by surveyors to lay out land and to develop it and get it organized for development. The next category is a document type search, and that is a very simple search that is really oriented toward people who are looking for certain types of real estate activity. They don't need to see everything else. They're just looking for that particular thing. And the structure of the data is organized to allow you to do that. Some even are interested in something more simple than that, and that is just to look at the records in an individual county for a particular date range, because their business function just requires them to pay attention. Hey, what's going on in that county last week or on that particular day? And so we have a tool to enable you to do that. And then last but not least, not a simple search, but something that is an advanced search that allows you to use a combination of search criteria to help you find what you're looking for. In the navigation in the left-hand bar, you will see evidence of what we refer to as saved search. Now, this is technically a utility that also existed in the legacy application, but I think you'll find that this updated version is much easier to use and also much more powerful than what we were doing in the old application. And that's really what the main navigation bar. And you look at this, it says, hey, Phil, there's an awful lot of white space here. Is this all there is? And the answer to that is that the web page itself is based on a responsive design, so it will expand based on the size of your computer screen to use up the real estate that you provide. And the other thing is that the search results themselves are going to be displayed right here. It's not going to open up a new page. Everything's going to appear right here. You're going to be able to see what you're looking for on this page without having to do a lot of navigation. So a few notable things that I want to be sure to cover before we get into the actual demonstrations, and I'll be quick about this, is that when you run a search, and if you'll permit me, I'm just going to run a very simple name search, and I'm going to use myself as an example. So I'm going to enter my last name, and I'm going to enter my first name. Then I am going to choose Polk County because Polk County, because that's where most of my real estate transactions have occurred over my lifespan anyway. And then I'm actually not going to enter a date range here. I just want to see everything that has my last name and my shorthand first name of Phil. And we're going to run that, and then you'll see what the results look like. So let me give you a quick tour of what the search results are and what some of the meanings are. I think most of you will find this to be very, very straightforward. But you know, in each particular area, notice it is still in a bit of a table format, but it is incorporating a lot more information than what has been present in the past. So in Polk County, you'll see that they've actually set up reference numbers. They're providing it to us under two different data elements, and then they also use a book and page. The document type is specified at the top of the area for each document. And then also there's a reminder of which county you are searching in. So whatever county you search, whatever county that record is associated with, that will also appear there as well. Over on the right-hand side, you'll see the date and time of recording. If the instrument date of the document itself, that is the date that the document was executed, if it was provided to us by the county, it would appear here. And then the location description information is also provided in this area to the lower right of each section. In this first example, we've got a platted land that is in a subdivision called The Woods, and the property is located in Lot 10. And then on the lower left-hand portion, you're going to see that the grantors, or what I would refer to as the parties, listed. I have run into some people who have a little bit of confusion that they think that this area is supposed to be divided with like grantors and grantees, one group on the left, one group on the right. And that is not really what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to list as many of the parties to the transaction in this space, and they're just overflowed. We're using two columns, and sometimes you're going to run into situations where there will even be a message in this area that says "and more." It might even say "and 4 more" or 6 more. So it's there to provide you with the basic information, and certainly you would see the name, that you searched on in this area, along with any other names that would fit. So that's the basic information that you see, but you can still see more. And the way you would do that is on the right-hand portion of the screen, you would click on the View Index Data button, and that would open up an area that listed all of the grantors and grantees. Here on this page, you'd see some of the same summary information, but now you would see, okay, this is who the grantors are, this is who the grantees are. If there is associated document information present, you would also see them on this page, and you would be able to actually click on that. So in this case, I have a document here that is a satisfaction of mortgage, and I have two associated documents, a mortgage and an assignment. And I might want to look at the original mortgage. And so in order to do that, I can choose one of these action buttons. And if I click on one of those action buttons, it actually will bring up information about that mortgage. So now what you see is the information about the mortgage, not the satisfaction of mortgage. And if I wanted to actually see the document, I would be able to do that. So I can also click on this PDF link here, and it will open up that associated document for me so that I can see it. So what should be opening up here is the mortgage that the original mortgage that was associated with that satisfaction. I'm going to take a step back now. We're going to go back and view this particular document. And again, in addition to being able to drill down into the details, here you can also go directly to the image by clicking on the PDF icon. And then in addition to that, the next link is what we would refer to as an issue or a reporting link. And if you click on this icon, you can basically what you're doing is you're sending a message to the Iowa Land Records team, and you're saying to us, hey, you should give a look to this because something is not right. And it used to be that this type of notification would be strictly associated with personally identifiable information, like you discovered a social security number or some type of bank account number, and you felt like, hey, this is PII, we need to report this. Okay, that is true. But in addition to that, we're all human, right? And sometimes there are errors made in indexing. Sometimes there's a spelling error in a party name. Maybe the associated reference is actually pointing to the wrong document. Maybe it needs to go someplace else. And then any other issue that you have, maybe you think the search is not working correctly, or maybe you think, hey, this document was recorded in error, or maybe it's missing a page, or it's maybe missing a notary signature. Whatever you might find, we would encourage our users to report that. And then, of course, if the image quality is not very good, we would want you to report that as well. And so it's as simple as selecting a reason and entering a comment, and then submitting it to us, and that message comes to us. The next thing is something that we actually introduced after the initial rollout of the application, and that is that some users said, we would like a hint. Could you verify with us so we don't have to drill out down into the next level to find out if there is an associated document or not? And so what we've done is we've added another icon to the right-hand portion here to see the associated reference. And it really has the same effect as the index link above. But if you see this sort of two pages stacked on top of each other, it's an indicator that there is an associated reference in this document, and you can click on that, go to the detailed view, and just as I demonstrated before, you can see the associated reference and actually click on a link and either open the image to it or go to the details for that specific document. I observe in the chat pod that someone has said, well, I'm seeing more complete info here than I have been. For me, names and legals have been cut off, not showing the full name. And I would just say that depending on the size of your screen but more about how much space we have in the area, you are going to see that. And an example of it is right here. So here there is a word to deed for a property, and you can see that there is an ellipses at the end, and that means there just wasn't enough space allowed to display that whole thing. And if we would click on the details, we would see that for whatever reason, Longview Greens North did not just did not show up in its totality in this particular area. So I want you to be aware that we're trying to fit as much information into this area as we can. You're going to find situations, some of them will be in my demo in just a few minutes, where you're going to have a property with numerous legal descriptions or location descriptions, and they just won't, it just literally won't fit in that entire area. And you may find yourself having to click on the details in order to see all of the information that you're looking for. If the description or the location information isn't too long, such as in this case where it's just referring to the subdivision of the woods, and in lot 10, it's going to fit into that area. And I would just say that as we go forward, I would like everybody to keep in mind that this is a journey. This is not the end. It is a new application, and we are identifying things that maybe we can tweak or improve upon as we go forward. So don't give up all hope, but we're already in an ongoing process of making improvements and changes as we go. A couple of other things I want to make sure I touch on before I get into the specific other demos is I want to talk a little bit about saved searches and some other features. So the first thing I want to say is that in this particular case, what did I do? I ran a search on my first name, my last name in Polk County. I did not have a date range. When you run a search, the criteria that you have selected are going to appear in this upper portion of the screen. So you can see where my cursor is, first name, last name, county. The search criteria that you choose are going to be here to remind you, okay, what did I just do to run that search? Another thing that I would share with you is that you do have the ability to manage the display. So, for example, if I said I wanted to see 50 documents instead of just 10, you have the ability to make that change. And you also have the ability to change the sort from ascending to descending, or vice versa. And you can sort based on the county, if you're searching on more than one county where it's allowed, or you can sort it based on the book and page reference or the reference number itself. And in addition to the recording, you can, the recording date, you can also sort by the document type. Now, a question I've had is, gee, that's great, but I really usually want to do it one way, and I hate having to change it from descending to ascending, and or vice versa every time I do this. So here's my advice to you going forward, and that is that if you have a particular preference and you have a particular search type that you like to use, run that search and then organize it the way you want it to be organized. So if you run a simple name search, or if you run a simple county search, run that search and then change the display so that it appears the way you want it to. And then once you have done that, create a saved search. And all you have to do to create a saved search is to enter a name, give yourself a name, type it in yourself, and then save that search. If you save a search, it will remember what your settings were on the display. It will remember the sorting criteria that you use. So you might want to play with this a little bit, but that is just something that may be a benefit to you. Then another thing that I think I should point out is it is very easy to change your search. So if you run a search initially, in this case, we run a name search. If I want to make a change to it, it's very easy for me to do. Say, I don't think I got all my records. Maybe I want to use a different name. Maybe I want to use a spouse's name. Something else that you'll want to use there is something it's very easy to do. And then once you have done that, you can just rerun the search. You could also use your back button on your browser if you wanted to, but it's a very simple thing to do to make it a tweak or a modification to your search. Also, I don't want to overlook the fact that in the search results, it does show you how many results you get. And if it is, basically not display all the records on the same pages, it will tell you how many pages you need to go to in order to see everything that you want to see. Then I think it would be good if I talked a little bit about the date range options. So this is another thing that would come in very handy for you if you are saving search criteria. And that is if I wanted to refine the search and enter it, probably what you experienced in the legacy application and in other things is that, okay, I've got to enter a date range or I've got to enter a calendar, feature in here to choose that. And you can still do that. You can choose to enter a starting date and an ending date. And basically the rules are the same. If you enter a time period, so let's just say we were going to run this from 2022, and I'll choose January 1st. I could leave end date blank, and it would just search from that date forward. Or if I wanted to have a date range in between, I could do that if I wanted to. So you can still enter a customized date range. For some of your business practices, you might want to take a shortcut. And the shortcut might be, hey, I just want to see everything from last month. I want to see everything on the current month, or maybe I just want to see what's happened yesterday or the current day. You have the ability to do that. That setting is also saved in your saved search. So, for example, maybe your business process is, I would need to look at all the satisfactions of mortgage that got filed in a particular county within the last week. And you save that search, you come back to that same search, and it's not measuring from a week ago, it's measuring from today. And so you didn't have to choose a date range at all once you have done that. So I think this is a very, very cool addition to the search criteria, and I would encourage you to make use of it. Someone said in a question to me about the image view limit. So as you may know, if you've reviewed any of the terms of use, that we do have a policy of limiting image views for any individual user within an organization to 120 per day. And you can see how many image views you have left in the upper portion of the screen. So in this case, you can see that for this particular account, I have 114 image views left today. And then when midnight rolls around, the clock will reset, and now I've got a new 120 to work with. This is programmatically enforced, so we're reminding you, but we aren't going to let you go beyond 120 anymore unless you have a special permission from us. So if I run this particular search, or if I run a search like this, I am going to remember where I'm at, and so in this particular case, I ran the search for current day. Well, I haven't recorded a document in quite a while, so I'm just going to remove the date range, run that search again, and you can see how many views I have left. And if you ever need a refresher on how many views you have remaining, run the refresh button on your browser, and that will give you the updated number. And then if I run an image again, I'm basically opening this up. It's continuing that count. So I should be down to 113 when I'm done. Yes, thank you for clarifying. It's not by page, it's by document, complete document images. I may not have mentioned this before, but just want to remind you that, there really is not an image viewer. We are using your native browser tools to open up the PDF. And depending on the browser you're using or the applications that you have installed, that will dictate what your ability is to print or to download. In my case, in this demo, I'm showing you where I have Adobe Acrobat installed. And once I open the image, I have a very easy choice to either download the file to my computer or just to print it out using my whatever printing device I have connected to that. That is not standard. It really is based on whatever PDF image viewer that you use, and I just would want you to be aware of that. Okay, what else have we got here? Okay, last thing I will talk about before we get into a quick run through of the demos is the issue of a wildcard. So the searches in our land records are supported with a wildcard feature, okay? And that feature will permit you to change what you're searching for. So in this case, I'm just going to remind you again, when I searched for my name and I ran it, I got 14 results. And the reason is because the search as it exists in the new iteration is looking specifically for what you enter, okay? It's not trying to guess. There's no implicit Google type search happening. It's a character string search. So if you enter, I want to see everything with first name Phil, that's what it's going to give you. And so if you examine each of the records that came up in the display, my name shows up as Phil, and that's all you get. However, if I want to be more inclusive and make sure that I'm catching everything, I might enter asterisk, which is our wildcard character, and that is going to permit you to find even more things. So if I run the search, instead of, I think it was 14, now I'm getting 29 results. And that is because for some records, for whatever reason, they used my first name. For other records, it was Philip with 2 L's, and for other records, it was Philip with 1 L. And that wildcard feature is something that you're going to want to be aware of and take advantage of. Remember that it's explicit, not implicit. And what that basically means is this system is going to search for whatever you enter. And if you want it to look more broadly, based on an unknown character string following starts with, then you're going to want to use that wildcard character. Okay, so I think those are the main points I wanted to cover. As I go through the demo, I will cover some other examples of the use of the wildcard. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go through every search here and give you a quick demo of how it works. And hopefully we have a little bit of time for questions, but I'll go as quickly as I can. So the first search, I already did one name search, but I've got another one in mind. And I'm going to enter the name Smith, and I'm going to start my search on January 1, 2020, 2022. So let me enter that. And I'm going to choose my year, 2022, and then go to January and January 1. If I don't enter at any date, it will assume that I am searching to current date. And now I'm going to choose Polk County again as my search county, and we're going to run that search. So let me make sure I get it selected correctly. We're going to run that search. And then So I have 1,211 results. I can change the view of that. Maybe I want to see 100 on a page all at the same time. It will change that around for me. And the other thing that I would want you to be aware of, that for a name search, you can refine it. In this particular case, you can search for more than one county. You can search up to 5 counties. So let's just add a couple. Let's add Dallas in here. And then also let's add Warren County in here as well. We're going to run that search again. And this time I got 1,637 results representing the last name Smith. And then another thing, if there are other names that begin with SMICH, and if I wanted to refine that to make sure I was catching any other spelling, I might add in an asterisk to the last name. And in that particular case, we get a few more results, and that might be because the last name, maybe there's a Smithson or a Smither or something, Smitherman, something like that. There are other spellings that may follow that. So if you're unsure of the spelling and you know how it begins, starts with, you can find a very good use of that wildcard character. For those of you who are familiar with the legacy application, no, it's just not going to be in the cards, at least for the foreseeable future, to just do a statewide search. Iowa Land Records, in its origins and even today, really wasn't created to do a giant download of all the data. It is built to allow people to find the specific things that they're looking for. I appreciate the comment about the Homeowners Association. I think that's something that we'll continue to look at, but I don't have a ready solution for that at this point in time. Knowing how things are spelled or knowing how things start, what they start with, is really a key to a successful search. All right, I'm moving on. The next one we're going to do is a county search. And in this case, I've already got a saved search queued up, and it's at Adair County. And because I saved it, it just runs the search. I didn't have to do anything. If I wanted to change something, I could choose refine search, but this is what happens. So in this particular case, I'm looking at things in Adair County, and it might be my business process to do research and say, hey, I want to just see all the transactions that happened in Adair County within this particular date range. Because it is county specific, it is not a multi-county search. It's intended to be a county search. And so keep that in mind, but that's something that can be very useful, very simple, but also potentially very powerful. Let's look at a reference search. So we're going to look at a reference search, and I'm going to do this one in Adams County. And the reason I chose Adams County is because in that county, they use both a reference number and they use book and page. So we're going to just play with that just a little bit. So I'm going to start with 2023, and I'm going to enter 633 for the page number. I could enter a date range, but I don't have to because, boy, I'm being pretty specific about the county and the book and page number. So I should find what I'm looking for. We're going to run that search, and I find that unique record in that particular county that will provide me with that information. So we've got a mortgage document. The reference number is 633. And the book and page is 2023-633. There are some different ways that we could play with that. Let's remind you that maybe a wild card might work here. Maybe I'm not sure what year it was in. I know it was page number 633, but I can't remember the exact year. I'm going to run that, and now it's going to show me 2023. It's going to show me 2022. It's going to show me 2021. Or the reverse, let's say that I'm not sure exactly what the number is. Maybe I know it begins with 63, but I'm not sure what the last digit is. I can enter a wildcard here. And now I'm looking at 639, 638, 637, you know, as the page number. So that can be it is. I'm seeing the comment about number of saved searches. Actually, there is a limit to the number of saved searches. The limit is 9. And the way that works is that if you find that you have a new search that you want to create, basically create a new one, and it will automatically delete the oldest one that you have. If we run into a situation where people need more than 9 searches, tell us about it, and then we'll see whether that's something that needs to be modified at some point. Just one more pass at this, and that is that I want you to be aware that you can also just search using either book number or page number. So I'm just going to say, hey, I need something in book 2023. It's going to bring up all of the results. If I wanted to just see, God, I can't remember what year it was, but I know that the page number was 633. I could just enter that. And once again, you're going to get all the various variations on that. Okay, maybe I spent more time on that than I needed to, but I want you to know that the wildcard is not just limited to the name search. It also comes into play in the reference number area, and it comes into play in the location search as well. So the next thing we want to do is a document type search. In this particular case, I'm going to be searching in Linn County. And I'm going to be searching for a satisfaction of mortgage. And I'm just going to see what may have been filed yesterday. Again, this is where that not having to type in a date range, but just be able to use a common term to do this can really save you a bunch of time. So I run that search, and these are the satisfactions that have been filed in Linn County as of yesterday. And if you're in the mortgage business or in the banking business and you're waiting, well, I sure hope I can see that document get filed. This is a way that you can use to keep track of that. Well, I do apologize if you're not going to be taking advantage of the Save Search feature because that's what it's there for. I won't say we'll never change it. Never say never in the software business. I do not anticipate that in the near future we will be changing the default to from descending to ascending. I don't know if we've done a survey on that. I will share with you that we definitely have the impression that people are most commonly looking for recently recorded documents rather than older documents. Mine can be changed. So if you have thoughts on that, maybe we can do some research on that. But I would not anticipate that change to be made in the near future. And I would just point out that the saved searches are particular to the individual users. So it's not a company-wide default. And you can play with that. So rather than giving up on it, I would encourage you to give that a try. You're able to save search output or save as a PDF all entries or location search for your file. I would say no, there is not currently an export function. I will tell you that in the past that, I've been known to, drag a page and then paste it into a spreadsheet or a Word document and then modify it from there. Again, I'm not saying never. But it currently is not a feature included in the search application. The next one I want to do real quickly, because we're running out of time, is a location search. And in this particular case, I'm going to use Buena Vista County as my example. So we're going to start with a platted land search. So I'm going to choose Buena Vista. And then I'm going to be searching. I'm going to be searching in Storm Lake. So I know that they spell out their full name and their city town. So I'm going to enter Storm Lake. And then I'm going to look for a particular subdivision. And I want a subdivision that begins with the letters IOWA. And I'm going to use a date range beginning January 1, 2020. So I'm going to actually have to enter in the custom range. And I'll choose 2020, January 1. And I'm going to assume the current date is the end date. And I'm going to try to run that. And so run that and we'll see what comes up. Well, nothing came up. And that is because we're looking for an exact match. So if I want to try that again, I'm going to add an asterisk to the word Iowa and say I want something that begins with Iowa. I know it begins with Iowa. I'm going to run that now with the wildcard. And now I'm getting 13 results. So that is an example of something that you might do. And then let's just dig one layer deeper. And this time I'm going to enter a lat number. So I'm going to enter the number 3. And I did not get any results there. Let me see if I can get a something, a hit with O3. No, I didn't get anything there. I must be doing something different here. But it's because I'm in block, not lat. Let's try that again. Okay, here we go. So I've got several hits now, and you can see in the platted land area, I've got lot 3. It did not require me to enter a leading 0. Did I get everything? Maybe, maybe not. Let's find out. I got 5 results here. Let's go back. I'm going to enter an asterisk after a 3, and we're going to run that again. Now I have 6 results. What's changed? Well, we noticed that in this particular example, it's not just lot 3, but for whatever reason, they labeled this particular lot as lot 3G. I can't explain why, but it is something that you might want to watch out for. Let's look at it from the other direction. A quick review of unplatted land. In this case, I'm not searching in Storm Lake because I'm not within the corporate city limits. I'm going to search with section 1. And again, I'm going to start in January of 2020. And let's run that search. Okay, so I've got 1. Now, if I go back and play with the section number, maybe I'm not sure if it's 11, 12, or 13, but I know it begins with 1 or starts with 1. I run that same search, and now I can find basically everything with that section number beginning with the numeral 1. Let's give that a second to come up. Okay. Thank you, Doug. I'm doing unplatted right now. So thank you for that question. I do want those results. Here we go. So we've got section 13. We've got section 16. Basically, I said I'm looking for something with section 1. Now, one thing I've learned as I was reviewing the results is that in Buena Vista County, when they enter their section numbers, they actually do use leading 0s for that. So I'm going to enter 09 to start with, and we'll get our results. And so because I've used an 09, it should produce results for that particular section. If I am uncertain about that, potentially I could use a wildcard character to search as well. The other thing that can be done, I'm sorry, this is not coming up immediately, but we'll give it another section here. But another thing to keep in mind is that, the same thing applies to township. You have the ability to use wildcards when searching for township numbers. So I may not have time to do it, but an earlier example that I did was I searched on township number 90. And see if I can give this a kickstart here. There we go. And then I also use the number 9 followed by an asterisk to get township 91, 92, and so on. A piece of advice I would give everybody is if you think you're going to want to search by quarter section, I really encourage you to take a close look at what that county is doing because they don't always do it the same way, and it can affect your results. I'm going to have to skip that one. It's not responding as quickly as I want. And the last actual demonstration I want to give you is an example of an advanced type search. Now, the thing to remember about advanced searches is that it allows you to search with names and a combination with a reference. You can search in platted or unplatted land, not both at the same time. And you can use it in any combination of a county with a document type and a date range. A practical example that I have for that is in Story County. So, and this would apply in other counties as well. But I'm going to enter the Iowa Department of Transportation. I know that in this county, when they enter an organization name that is longer, they will abbreviate. So knowing how that abbreviation goes can make the difference between success and failure. I'm going to choose a date range that goes back to January 1 of 2023. So just the beginning of this year. So I'll choose 2023 and then January and January 1st. And then I'm also going to look in Story County. And I'm, in particular, I'm looking for an easement. So I'm looking for an easement that was recorded in Story County by the Iowa Department of Transportation sometime after January 1, 2023. This would be a real practical example of how you would use an advanced search because the simple searches just don't provide you with the ability to mix and match the search criteria, but the advanced search does permit you to do that. And that is, I guess, a general commentary I would make is that a advanced search, there are things that you should try to do with it that just don't make sense. That I often found myself as I was trying to think of an example saying, well, shoot, I may as well just do a name search. That seems more straightforward. Or I may as well just do, a document type search in a particular county, or maybe use a location thing. There are not unlimited, even though it's the advanced search, the combinations of searches don't necessarily always make sense. This is just an example where it does make sense. There's a question that she posted, can you use the asterisk at the beginning as well? And no, the answer to that is no, you should not use that at the beginning. But I would just encourage you to just try to know how things start as best you can. No, you would not run. Instead of entering a wild card because you're uncertain, just leave it blank. It's basically going to have the same effect. By not having any entry into a search criteria, it basically is meaning disregard this. No matter what it might be, disregard this data element and just search using some of the other criteria that you do know. I've given many webinars over the years at various times on the search legacy application, and some of the rules are still the same. Having some knowledge about the indexing practices or history in a particular county can make the difference between failure and success. Having some knowledge about the formats that have historically been used by counties can make a difference as well. Iowa Land Records is a compendium of the data given to us by the 99 counties. We have talked about doing some data normalization, but right now, what we get from the counties is the data that you're searching. So you can't totally disregard the history in a county. Okay, I think I've gotten through the entire demo, and we're sitting at 3:05. We're just a little bit over time, but I would take a few additional questions. I haven't seen all the questions in the chat box, so if there's something that hasn't been addressed, please somebody re-enter it now. Yes, we are going to post this. If you signed up for this, we're going to probably send you a link to it so you have access to it. And then we will be posting it on the website as well. The question about the free-form field is sometimes what is referred to in the legacy application. We did consider that, but boy, the variability in the formatting of that across the 99 counties is pretty diverse. And it would be very difficult for us to provide any guidance about, well, here's how you should use that as a search tool. And quite frankly, I don't think we believe it is a very effective search tool. Nevertheless, I hear what you're saying, that for whatever reason you feel like it would be a useful tool. It is not currently a part of the updated application. That doesn't, again, never is never. We aren't saying never. We'll evaluate that as we go. And if there is sufficient utility and demand for it, then it's something I think we may consider as we would anything else that our customers are asking for. Other questions that you may have? So with that, I want to thank everybody for being with us today. You've been a great audience. I hope that our team has been able to answer most of your questions. I hope the demonstration has been useful to you. I'm seeing a question here about addresses. Recorders information is not organized by street address. So in order to look up property information by that, you may want to be looking at an assessor's database or some of the utility. We have had conversations about how we can share data with other organizations, and that's something that we have done, and we'll continue to explore that. And in that way, you might be able to access information about it. Should you help me define what a certification date is, please? I'm not sure what you mean by that. So Stacy is saying counties certify their data to certain dates. I would just say to you, we encourage counties to get their information transferred to us as soon as they can. Our general policy is to ask recorders to transfer their information to Iowa Land Records within 72 hours or 3 business days. And I would say generally most counties do a very good job of that. We are not certifying anything at Iowa Land Records. I think, I have observed that some people use the date of transfer that is published in search tips as sort of the equivalent of a certification date in the manner in which you describe it. That is something that we aren't making any judgment about. We're just giving you the last date of the recorded information provided to us by the county. I'm just from a legal perspective, Iowa Land Records is not in a position to certify, a particular date or a particular use. I think most people find, if you're in the real estate industry, the online access to it is a tremendous value. The recorders do a great job of getting information to us, but we would not say that we have a certification date in the same manner that maybe your county recorder would share that with you. But it is something to think about. Okay, with that, we're at 10 minutes overdue. We've covered a lot of material. Please send in your questions and comments. If you have comments to send to us or ideas for improving the website, use the information notice in the search application, or just send us an email at support@close.com. As things evolve, we will do many more future training sessions and webinars. We hope this has been helpful to you. With that, we'll bring this to a close. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great rest of your summer. Bye-bye.